The Brooklyn Bridge in New York City, the Tower Bridge in London, the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, the Erasmus Bridge in Rotterdam, and the Rainbow Bridge in Tokyo, Japan. Those are the 5 bridges that we're going to be checking out today in this episode of Aussie Google Earth Explorer. This is top 5 best bridges in the world. This is the first one on the list. This is the Brooklyn Bridge. Here it is here right in front of us. It's not this one in the back. I don't know what this one's called. It's this one in the front here. It's this kind of a little bit more of an orangey, dusty kind of color. And this is the Brooklyn Bridge. A lot of people have been asking for me to review this bridge. I made a video recently on the Sydney Harbour Bridge, and so many people in the comments were saying, you got to check out the Brooklyn Bridge. It's one of the coolest bridges. And now I'm looking at it, I can't lie, it's pretty sick, man. It's pretty sick. And I think the reason it's so cool is because of where it is, right? And that's partly why I like the Sydney Harbour Bridge so much, because where it was. You got Manhattan on the left-hand side here. This is like one of the most famous cities in the world, New York City. And you've got Brooklyn down here on the right-hand side. And the Brooklyn Bridge connects the two of them. This is the East River. It runs across the East River. And it has a fascinating history, and we're going to learn a little bit about it today. When this was completed in 1883, this bridge was actually the longest suspension bridge ever made, if you can believe that or not, at 486 meters long, or nearly 1,600 feet. So a monster bridge. This bridge, when they were making this bridge, it actually claimed 27 lives of people that were on the construction team. 27 people died making this bridge, including, actually, quite famously, its designer, John Augustus Roebling. John Augustus Roebling, he was a designer of this bridge, and while he was on the construction team, he had an accident, and his foot got crushed by a ferry in this area, and he got a tetanus infection and died. So the man who designed this bridge was killed while he was in the process of making it, which is unreal. When you think about something as small as getting a tetanus infection will take you out, mate, we would have all been dead if we were back in the day. The amount I got a cut on my leg right now, I probably would have had to cut the whole thing off. So thank goodness we don't live back then, right? To prove that this bridge was safe, this is a fascinating story. To prove that this bridge, the Brooklyn Bridge, was safe for people to travel on, a gentleman by the name of P.T. Barnum, okay, he led 21 elephants across this thing in a big succession to prove to the people of New York City that this bridge was in fact strong enough to carry cars and carry people. So elephants were led across this bridge. 21 elephants were led across this bridge to prove that it was safe. And I like that. It's very visual. I'm a visual person, so I can get around 21 elephants on this bridge, especially if it was all at the same time. But where would they even get 21 elephants from? Back in the day, back in bloody 1883. Surely there's not 21 elephants in the actual New York City area. I wonder where they got them from, 21 elephants. This was the first steel wire suspension bridge. The Brooklyn Bridge was the first steel wire suspension bridge ever constructed. And just taking a look at it, I reckon that this is the steel wire we're looking at right now. This is the steel wire. So this is the first, and it kind of looks a little bit like a tennis racket, or a woven basket or something like that. And you can see, classic, got the American flag on top. Just in case anyone forgot where we were, we are indeed in the United States of America, in New York City. And this is, let's get real here. New York City. Let's just zoom out a little bit. And get a little bit of context, because you need to think about the context. When you're talking about the coolest bridges, you got to think of the context, and you got to look at this, man. This is sick, dude. New York City it's got to be the best city in the world in terms of physical. I mean, it's up there with, it's either Tokyo or New York City. Tokyo or New York City have definitely got the 1 and 2 spot for just, look at this city, dude. Look at this thing, man. This looks fake. The amount of buildings that they've got here is just, look at this little green guy in the middle here. What's he doing? This little Salesforce, of course. A plug for Salesforce here. I didn't see that one coming. The Salesforce building is green. And I'll tell you what, not a bad marketing tactic to make your building a different color in New York City, because they're all kind of the same color. They're all kind of the same color. We've got a little bit of red over here. This might just be under construction. That's why it's that color. And yes, that is indeed why. Those are just construction panels. But hey, Salesforce building, you're getting a shout out on Aussie Google Earth Explorer for your for your aqua building right there. Aqua building. My dad had an aqua colored Tirana. If anyone knows what that is, an LX Tirana, an aqua-coloured LX Tirana. God, he should never have sold that thing. Would have been worth an absolute mozza now. But anyway, back to the Brooklyn Bridge. Let's just zoom back here on the Brooklyn Bridge. Look, a little bit of historical context for you for the Brooklyn Bridge, right? Okay, so when the Brooklyn Bridge was built around the time that New York was just exploding. The growth in New York was exploding at this time in the late 19th century when they built the Brooklyn Bridge, right? But before they built this bridge, the only way to get from Manhattan over to Brooklyn was actually by ferry. And this river here, the East River, and I don't know if you know this about the United States, East Coast of the United States, but it gets incredibly cold. It gets insanely cold, and this river is very, very icy. So to catch the ferry across the Brooklyn Bridge was in fact quite a treacherous journey. And so when they finally built this thing, it changed the whole economy of the area. All of a sudden, all this trade could be done. From people could live and work and move across from Brooklyn to New York, and it actually meant that to Manhattan. Sorry, and it actually meant that the Brooklyn area became a borough of New York City. So there's 5 boroughs in New York, and it just means they're government areas or local government areas. You've got Brooklyn, you've got the Bronx. You've got Manhattan is a borough, you've got Queens, and you've got Staten Island. Those are the 5 boroughs of New York. But that's the Brooklyn Bridge. And look, I get why everyone was saying in the comments now to check the Brooklyn Bridge out, because it's sick, dude. It's sick. And Brooklyn's a pretty cool place. Actually, I've been to Brooklyn before. Like, we're checking out the Brooklyn Bridge, but let me tell you a quick story about me in Brooklyn. First time I went to the United States, a young 25-year-old man didn't really know about tipping. And let's just say I'm over here somewhere, staying at a little hostel over here. I'm here. Let's just say I'm here, right? And I order a pizza. It's raining. The bloke arrives on a fixed-wheeled push bike. He rides in the rain carrying my pizza. He gets there annoyed, of course. I take my margarita pizza, or as they would call it in America, cheese pizza. I give him the $20 and I don't tip him. Okay, I don't tip him. And here I am standing on the corner here. I'm on the corner with my pizza. No tip for the pizza man. We nearly get into a punch-on. So he nearly smacks me in the mouth because I didn't tip him. So welcome to New York. Welcome to New York. You better tip. Later that night, let's just zoom out a little bit here. Later that night, I'm over here. Let's just say I go to a bar. I'm over here at this bar down here, right? And the theme of this bar was that if you got too drunk, all right, there was a dog kennel, a dog cage that they would put you in. Say if you smashed a glass or you were too drunk and being, mouthing off or whatever, they'd put you in a cage. So my first experience of Brooklyn was nearly getting into a fight with the pizza man, and you better believe I was getting pretty pissed that night. So nearly getting put into the dog kennel in Brooklyn. So look, it's a colourful place. It's a colourful place, the old Brooklyn, New York City, and don't we love it? Don't we love it? And what are these little things? What are these little things here? What are these little things? What is this? Is this a soccer pitch? Bro, look at this. These are 3 soccer fields floating in the water right here on the East River in Brooklyn. How sick is that, dude? Imagine playing a game. Let's zoom out here. Imagine playing a game of soccer down here. Boom, I score a goal. Top bins. Bang. Looking over here, seeing Manhattan. Man, that is crazy. Mum, don't worry about bringing the oranges. Don't worry about washing the jerseys this week. I got a view of the Manhattan skyline. Sick, mate. Loving that. Brooklyn with the cool soccer pitch. Okay, we didn't expect we were going to see any of that, but I'm loving that about Brooklyn. And look, here it is again, the Brooklyn Bridge. Everyone in the comments saying Brooklyn Bridge, Brooklyn Bridge. Yep, you were right. Brooklyn Bridge. It's up there. One of the best bridges, I think, globally. and that's Brooklyn. We're off to the Tower Bridge in London. Okay, the Tower Bridge in London is coming up next. Let's go there now. The Tower Bridge in London. Here it is, the Tower Bridge in London. And look, first glance, this thing is sick, man. This thing is sick, super central, right? The city of London on the right-hand side here. You've got the London Bridge, this old sort of Victorian era architecture, the flags flying above it. You know, it's like a medieval kind of castle kind of thing. I mean, this is wild with the blue. It looks awesome, dude. Water's a bit gross, not gonna lie. The old Thames, I presume this is the Thames. Kind of looks like chocolate milk, but look, the Tower Bridge, mate. Sick, mate. This is a cool bridge, and a lot of people in the comments being like, "Yeah, go check out the Tower Bridge." Blah blah blah. Yeah, you're right. The Tower Bridge is sick, and I respect it. I respect this bridge. A lot of respect for the Tower Bridge. Let's learn about the Tower Bridge, okay? The Tower Bridge is not the London Bridge. London Bridge is not this. Okay, this is the Tower Bridge. That's what it's called, and often gets mistakenly called that. Construction for this bridge took 8 years between 1886 and 1894, and it required over 70,000 tons of concrete to build this thing. So, mate, this thing would be heavy. This thing would be heavy for the foundations, big foundations. The parts that rise, this is the bascules that rise up and down here, were originally powered by steam. Okay, so there was little steam engines in here, which I presume that means that there was people shoveling coal. Is that correct? And when I think about steam, I always think about people shoveling coal, which, man, what a job that would have been to shovel coal back in the day in a steam train or in a furnace, you know, at a refinery or doing some sort of steel works, just shoveling coal all day. But these used to be powered by steam before they were converted into electricity. In 1976. So really not that long ago, these were actually powered by steam to lift these up and down to let boats through. When they built the Tower Bridge, it was at the height of the Victorian era, okay? So the Victorian era was like, you know, the English Empire was at its absolute peak. In terms of size, that's when it was pumping. The empire was pumping the most. So when they built this thing, this was a really significant structure in the context of back in the day. And I think just looking at it, and there's look in London, there's a lot of really, really cool buildings because it's such an old place. There's a lot of this style of architecture around. So I think that you could find sort of similar, this sort of similar stuff in a lot of places. But the fact that it's a bridge and it's such an iconic structure, I think this really holds up now. And it's rightly so on the list for most people when they think about best bridges or top bridges. And I don't even know if anyone's really got that list, best bridges, but let's just pretend they do because, this one should be on there, the Tower Bridge. The Tower Bridge. Look, the English sure can build a bridge here. They've built this incredible bridge, but it doesn't, they're so skilled in so many ways, the English. Doesn't really explain why they're so bad at cricket. You'd think, maybe that they can build a bridge and get over it, the impending loss in the upcoming Ashes. They could indeed, if they can build the Tower Bridge, they could build a bridge and get over it. The loss, or at least what's going to happen to them this summer of cricket. But hey, that's the Tower Bridge, in London, and it's sick. Loving the Tower Bridge. Next bridge we're going to go to is the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. The Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. This is the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, and this is without doubt one of the most famous bridges in the world, and it is huge, man. This thing is massive. Like, this is one of the biggest bridges. Look at the size of this thing, mate. It's huge. It is huge, and it's this beautiful red color as well. If you've ever seen the Golden Gate Bridge in real life, it is truly ridiculous up close. It is so much bigger than you think. It is so much bigger than you think. Really, really, it's massive. Now, look. the Golden Gate Bridge, right? It spans the entrance to the San Francisco Bay, or this area. If we zoom out a little bit here, San Francisco Bay is on the left-hand side, and the Golden Gate Bridge sort of covers the area, the entrance to the San Francisco Bay. But the Golden Gate Bridge isn't actually gold. Okay, a lot of people think the Golden Gate Bridge is called that because of its color, but it's not. It's just because it's the name that it gets from this strait, and this is called the Golden Gate Strait. All right, the Golden Gate Strait. So that's why it's called the Golden Gate Bridge. It's got nothing to do with the color of the bridge. The bridge is actually red. And fun fact about this bridge, they weren't going to paint this bridge red originally. This bridge was going to be grey or silver or white or black, like just the normal bridge color. But the guy who designed this, some of the metal here was just painted in this red color. It was painted in primer paint, so paint that you would put on steel before you painted it with the real paint. It was just red, and he saw that and he was like, "Okay, that's sick. Let's paint the whole thing red." So it was kind of like a little accident. They didn't mean to even, go out and think that we're going to make this whole thing red, but it was just a happy accident. And hey, we're looking at the Golden Gate Bridge here, and on the right-hand side, what's this little house doing down here? What's this little house doing down here on the Golden Gate Bridge? What's this? Who lives down here? Look at this little zone down here, tiny little house. Imagine the view of that. Boom. That's having a little morning coffee right there. That's crazy work. That's crazy work right there. Look at that view. Look at that little view there. Unreal. Wow. Okay, back to the Golden Gate Bridge. That's a little sidetrack. Okay. When this bridge was built, okay, this was the longest suspension bridge ever. Okay. When it was built, it was completed in 1937, this bridge. And it was the longest until another bridge came along, the Verrazano Bridge in 1964, and it beat it for the longest suspension bridge. But at the time, this thing was the longest, so, incredibly important bridge. This thing, windy. I don't know if you've been to San Francisco before, but let me tell you, mate, it's windy. It's called the Windy City. Actually, no, that is Chicago, my mistake. But they should call San Francisco the Windy City because, man, when I was there, way windier than Chicago. I don't know why Chicago got the name the Windy City, because this is way windier. Way windier, okay? If you're American, mate, get in touch with the powers that be. You need to do some renaming, because this San Francisco, Windy City. Chicago, cold city. That's the difference. During construction, interesting story actually about the Golden Gate Bridge. Okay, very interesting story. During construction, they put a net underneath this thing, okay, a net to catch workers that fell. And believe it or not, 19 workers, okay, fell, and they would have fallen to their deaths. This is high, all right, and the net caught them. The net ran along the span of the bridge, and these people were called Halfway to Hell Club. They became members of the Halfway to Hell Club, which is an incredible story. And look, a little bit of a sad reality about the Golden Gate Bridge. A lot of people die jumping off this thing. So the Golden Gate Bridge Halfway to Hell Club was a net that caught workers that accidentally fell, which is super interesting. I said this was, a windy place, but this bridge actually flexes 27 feet in strong winds. So this bridge bends 27 feet in the strongest winds, which is crazy. Look, when they built the Golden Gate Bridge, it was when they came up with the idea to build the Golden Gate Bridge, it was during the Roaring '20s. So it was a huge growth period, economic growth period for the United States. There's a lot of money going around. They're flush with cash, so they're thinking of really big ideas, right? But they didn't actually build the Golden Gate Bridge in that time. They built the Golden Gate Bridge during the Great Depression, which was 1929 to 39, I believe. So when they built this thing, jobs, mate, were vital for this area. People screaming out for work. So this construction project was incredibly important and gave jobs to thousands of people in the area. Look, the Golden Gate Bridge, it's awesome. in real life, when you see this thing up close, it's truly so big, it's hard to imagine. It's such an impressive bridge, and it really deserves its place as one of the most famous bridges in the world. Look, my review of San Francisco, on the other hand, I didn't love it. I had a lot more fun in other cities in the United States. It's a weird place to go out. You can definitely get into some... You can see some stuff in San Francisco. A lot goes on there. It's a very interesting place. I don't know how to describe San Francisco, but definitely not on my top 10 cities to visit in the United States. But worth checking out. Definitely should be called the Windy City, not Chicago, because man, this thing is windy. It's so windy here. I can't even tell you. But anyway, off to the next bridge. We're going to go and check out the Erasmus Bridge in Rotterdam. The Erasmus Bridge in Rotterdam. This is the Erasmus Bridge in Rotterdam, Netherlands. And this thing is crazy looking. This thing, they call this the Swan, nicknamed the Swan for obvious reasons. This is built in 1996, so a very modern structure. This bridge is about 800 meters long, so not the longest bridge, and it covers, this is the Nieuwe River. I'm definitely pronouncing that wrong, but it's a central river, and it covers a span of that river. This sort of central area here, this is about 140 meters long, this tall pylon, and it's anchored by 40 cables. So there's 40 cables that shoot off this thing. They call this the neck of the Swan, right? This is the neck of the Swan. And it's a beautiful structure. It's definitely one of the most contemporary bridges on this list. A lot of the bridges that we've looked at, a lot more traditional design, but it's cool to see something that is a lot more modern. Some interesting history about this bridge and the area that it's in. This part of Rotterdam, actually most of central Rotterdam, was destroyed in the Rotterdam Blitz in World War II. So bombing raids in this area destroyed so much of this. And when they were rebuilding these areas after World War II, they really made a conscious choice to make them as modern as possible. Not looking back to the past, sort of looking forward to the future. That was the ethos behind a lot of the architectural decisions that were made in this area. So it's a really, really modern city. And in the 90s, when they were choosing, what sort of bridge to build here, they continued that sort of tradition. And that's why they've chosen to build something that's so futuristic looking and nod to the future, sort of forgetting about the horrible tragedies that happened in World War II. But look, that's the Erasmus Bridge in Rotterdam. This is one of the coolest ones on the list. It's one of the most visually appealing bridges. And it's, I'd love to see more of this sort of architecture. A lot of traditional bridges, and I guess it's because they're old, right? There's not that many new ones that people know of. There's a lot of really, really cool bridges, but we want to look at things in 3D, and a lot of the really cool bridges aren't in 3D. That's why I've chosen to check these ones out. But that's the Erasmus Bridge in Rotterdam, or the Swan, if you want to call it that, the Erasmus Bridge in Rotterdam. Now we're off to our final bridge. This is our final bridge, the Rainbow Bridge in Tokyo, Japan. That's what we're going to be checking out. The Rainbow Bridge in Tokyo, Japan. This is the Rainbow Bridge in Tokyo, Japan. The Rainbow Bridge in Tokyo, Japan. And this bridge, very, very similar to the Brooklyn Bridge in New York, is really central, right? It's so central. And if we just have a little zoom around here, this is Tokyo. You can see in the background, Tokyo, the most densely populated, and I'm pretty sure by population, the biggest city in the world. So this bridge, the Rainbow Bridge, smack bang in the middle of Tokyo, and it is awesome, man. This is a fantastic bridge, such a cool structure, and I think just contextually where it is makes it so impressive. The Tokyo Bridge spans Tokyo Bay. So this is Tokyo Bay, you can see here, and it was completed in 1993. So pretty modern bridge. It's about 800 meters long, and this bridge is actually, and you can see here, this bridge is white, right? The color of this bridge is white. However, why do they call it the Rainbow Bridge, right? Why do they call this thing the Rainbow Bridge? And it's because at night, it has lamps that light this thing up red, white, and green at night. So this thing changes color at night, and that's why it's called the Rainbow Bridge. So you can't see it now through these photos of Google Earth, but if you were to Google, some of the photos of the Rainbow Bridge, you'd see, and it means that it's one of Tokyo's most photographed landmarks. This bridge really is one of the most photographed areas of Tokyo, which is incredible, right? The Tokyo Bridge. The Rainbow Bridge connects Tokyo, which is over here, at Tokyo Main Center over here, with Odaiba, which is on the right-hand side over here. And it has a fascinating history. This area of Tokyo, actually, on the right-hand side, Odaiba, was originally built, and this is an artificial island, by the way. This is the floating island. It was built for defense purposes in the 1850s, and it was sort of laid dormant for decades, and there was nothing really happening over here. You can see this is quite an industrial area. They had the docks and stuff, but in terms of other buildings, not really much went down over here until it went massively through some redevelopment in the 90s, and it transformed this area into like a premier destination for like shopping, entertainment. They got museums, they got really interesting stuff over here. And it really changed the whole landscape of this part of Tokyo. Before there was really nothing going on. So it was a really, really interesting change in the culture of Tokyo to develop this area. And today, this is like a massive tourist hotspot. So if you were to go over here, you'd take the Rainbow Bridge. It would connect you from the main area of Tokyo to Odaiba over here. But if you're Australian, I'm sure you've probably been over this thing, because I feel like every single Australian goes to Japan these days, and I really hope we're behaving ourselves and we're not being like the Americans of the Southern Hemisphere. But I fear that might be the case, and we're getting drunk on Suntories and riding our bikes across this thing. Hopefully we're not doing that. Hopefully we're not doing that. But that's the last bridge on this list. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. We'll do more of these, but thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. See ya.